at that level, you can scale like crazy. So all the money you spent to grow to 5 million, if you do it right, then you can start scaling. You have to get to 5 million in 3 years. You have to have done it through.
Hey there, this is Vlad Cherchenko. Welcome to the Insurance Sales Lab podcast. The reason we do this podcast is because I want these conversations to serve as inspiration for agency owners who want to see what's possible. Maybe you're not surrounded by successful agents, and I want these conversations to serve as inspiration and motivation to achieve bigger things. And today I have a very special guest, Ryan Chao. Nope. Ryan
Chao.
Chao. Yeah, you
Do it
told me
again.
like
Let's
three
do
times. Ryan Chao. You told me 3 times how to pronounce your name. Still
it.
butchered. There's a close friend of mine whose name I won't mention. I still can't get his last name. And I'm embarrassed by that because we've talked so many times, but I just call him by his first name. But hey, thanks so much. Despite being on vacation with your family, you took time away to spend time with us today. For those who don't know, Ryan has an agency in Georgia, and Ryan runs a different operation than what we do here in Dallas. You do things remote, and we now start having some remote team members, but you have everybody working remote. You have 7 sales agents, plus or minus, depending on the month. You have 7 service team members, and you guys write 450 to 500 items per month, which is very impressive considering that your state is not a growth state today. You guys are still making it happen. And you acquire business from mailers, you have organic marketing, you have data leads that you buy. So it's not just one way that you acquire business. And I want to unpack today how you look at your marketing, how you look at measuring success with your sales staff, activity, and also results. There's a lot that I want to cover today, but thanks again for being on the call with us today.
Yeah, man. I appreciate the opportunity to be here hanging out with you. We've had some great conversations and definitely jive. And I like the way that you see the business and understand how to scale. So thanks for having me here. And hopefully we can share some good nuggets.
For those who don't know, myself included, how did you first get into the business and how many years ago was that?
So I first got into business in 2016 and I was very green. I came out of a different industry where the sales cycle was like 6 months, 2 years. I sold capital equipment and I thought I was I was overconfident. I really thought I was, but it was based on the experience that I had. When I came to the insurance industry in 2016, I learned that everything I knew about my sales cycle and sales had to be thrown out the window. So I want to say that I failed forward in 2016. I was used to a very large income, came back and made a decent income, but not what obviously my family needed. And honestly, through a fate-based moment, we talked about it, but through a fate-based moment, I was able to walk out of my industry, went and worked for one of the largest agency at the time. And from there, they poured into me and taught me and helped me understand the insurance industry, the type of individual that I have to mentor, coach, and develop, and the sales cycle. And from there, I was able to start understanding ROI and metrics. And I was able to start building spreadsheets and understanding that and realizing where there was opportunity for growth in such a large agency, right? So I took that and I was given the opportunity to come back into the insurance industry on my own again. And I took that as an agency owner. And so started in 2019. And from there, I knew what I knew at that point. And I knew I came in it with complete confidence and I was able to crush it. And we grew from September of 2019 when I started to just right at 5 years. You know, we were at 17 million organically, and then through acquisition, now we're at 30 million. So 0 to 30 million in 5 years. But that's my story, and it was through a lot of failing forward that we're here today.
Wow. I want to start off with how you manage this $30 million book of business first, and then we will go into the sales side and how you acquire new clients.
Mm-hmm.
For a $30 million book of business, you have 7 full-time service team members who are all remote. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. That's
Do
correct.
you feel like you're understaffed? Are you staffed appropriately, overstaffed? How do you feel about that?
That's an ebb and flow. And it all has to do with your product and what rates are being taken, the industry's stability. And so when rate is being heavily taken, you need more service for retention to find those opportunities to show the discounts and so forth and retain the client. So that is all about stability in the industry. We just grew to 8, and they are being onboarded this week. And I have a agency manager, an operations manager that oversees those sales individuals. So we are all remote because the best opportunity to find the best talent and the ones that can really make a difference in the agency, unfortunately, they're not in my backyard. I have a few that are in Georgia, but mostly all across the U.S. And a lot of people are intimidated by that because, different laws, labor laws, and so forth. So we have supported our agency growth through the right tools to support employment outside of our state. So that was with a company called Just Works. I don't know if you know them, but they're pretty sweet. They help us out a lot so that we have no issues or no trepidation as far as growing in other states and managing it. But all remote, we have an insane remote environment. The connection is incredible. Every opportunity we have, we celebrate, we connect, we fill each other's cup. And I'll have to tell you, I haven't met 80% of my team ever.
Hmm.
And
That was something that was
yeah,
surprising to me when we last spoke, is that you said you go into the office on Wednesdays, but you work from home. You showed me your workstation where you work from, and you said that a lot of the team members you've never met in person. It's just through Zoom calls. Is that right?
it's all, yeah. We use G Suite and Google, and they have incredible technology that keeps us connected.
Okay. So specifically for the service team, we're also about the same size for service team. We have 8 people, and we have them specialized into certain areas of pride that they have or responsibilities. Everybody takes inbound calls. Everybody is responsible to do that. But one person works renewals, another person works cancellations. We have specialized roles. How do you specialize, if any, your service team? And when you talk to them about their expectations of what you want them to do on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, what is that expectation that you have for them?
We specialize just like you. It's the smartest way to do this because when you specialize, you take excuses off the table.
Mhm.
So why didn't you complete these tasks? Because I had others. Why didn't you review this with the client? Because I had, let's say you didn't specialize, you were hybrid, because I had sales that day that I was working with. Or why didn't you sell more? Because I was going over service related issues that day. So when you do specialize, you remove any other potential excuses and distractions. And then when you said KPIs or metrics that we manage, we all hold our team accountable to the same metrics. And that is talk time, that is outbound and inbound calls, that is
So you're talking
recording.
about sales, right? You're talking
No,
about
service. Were you referring to service or are you referring to
yeah,
sales?
service.
Yeah,
So on the
service.
service side, you look at talk time as well.
Oh gosh. Yeah. So when you're connecting with clients and you're creating relationships so that you retain them, you need conversations. And
Mhm.
then in order to connect with them, to follow up on anything, cancellation calls, termination calls, policy reviews, getting back to clients that have left a message overnight, all of those take outbound calls. And then we
Mhm.
also obviously have tons of inbound pouring in. So we're measuring the talk time to make sure that we're having good conversations with the connected calls, right? And then if we
Mhm.
are over communicating to the client, for example, if the average call is 45 minutes per client, we have to coach our service agents to land the plane. If the average talk time is 4 or 5 minutes with our clients, then we have to coach our service agents to get deeper in the conversation, because that's where new business and opportunity comes from. So we manage talk time and we manage our outbound and inbound calls. So those are very important. Then we have a CRM where we note and protect ourselves. So when we document those records, we're protecting ourselves against E&O. So we have a certain amount of uh, uh, records that need to be kept. So for every inbound and outbound call that connects, we expect a note, no matter what happened. I don't care if all they heard was dogs barking in the background. That needs to be noted, right, in that CRM. So we manage that, and then we also track Google reviews where their name is mentioned. That has been the most beneficial aspect of our organic growth. And then from there, we go for life appointments. So big time life appointments and life policies. And that gets us deeper into the household. And so that's the four things that we typically manage too. And then there are some other metrics for bonus metrics that move the needle. So wherever you have to go, you have to put that cheese. And that could be additional bonus metrics that help the agency achieve goals where that the product could have set a goal or something that you need to move the needle with the agency. You have to bring in other metrics that move the needle, and then we actually incentivize to that, and we create that positive momentum in the direction we want to go.
And specifically on the amount of inbound, outbound talk time and these pivots to other lines of business, do you have a specific number that you want them to achieve on a daily basis?
Yeah, and I'll tell you where the sweet spot is. It's an average of 10 minutes a call and about a total of 35 to 40 inbound slash outbound calls a day. And we typically have about 60 records made. And we use text messaging as well that we just started tracking. So I can't tell you what the text messaging, that metric looks like, but yeah, that's the sweet spot. And we do have two service agents that go above and beyond that 10-minute, and they're the highest producing cross sell organic item generators and life generators in the agency. So go figure.
Yeah, because they're not order takers. They look for other ways to pivot to other lines of business. And when they get into another product line, that adds a few extra minutes to every conversation. So naturally, their talk time will be higher. Um, Final point on the service side, if I'm scaling my agency quickly, maybe I'm at 2 million and the goal is to be at 3 million this time next year. Take your average agency. And service is occupying a lot of my time as an agency owner. I'm jumping in and helping out clients because every cancellation is worth a few $100. That's walking away. And it's cheaper to retain clients than it is to go and acquire new business. What do you tell an agent who doesn't have a big service team? They have just enough of what they do. And when a team member is out of the office, the sales agent needs to, not the sales agent, but the agency owner needs to jump in and help out. What general advice do you have for an average agency owner that's not as big as you,
Right.
specific around?
Right. And I know a lot of agency owners that really need that income, that take home income, and they're really managing to that, right? And then they'll normalize their workday around that. And if somebody wants to take their agency to another level, then they have to create a new normal, and they have to get uncomfortable. And to get uncomfortable, sometimes growth is uncomfortable. Growth is
Mhm.
friction, growth is change. It is hard. And so that's why a lot of owners say, listen, I tell you what, I'm going to consider this business my job, and
Mhm.
I'm going to work in the business instead of work on the business. And that's their normal. So anytime that anything that stresses them or can be different, they tend to shun or make excuses and push that growth opportunity out, because they're happy with their normal. I was victim of that. I was certainly victim of that when I first started. But when I went to another agency to see how they ran things and scaled, I saw that the minute I get myself out of the way, then you can scale. You can absolutely scale once you step out. So if you're an agency owner that says, I can only afford $15, $16 an hour to somebody that can help me, then there are opportunities to bring somebody in. There are part-time people that can take the lowest, right? The lowest return on your time for anything that you're doing. If you're not getting a good return on that time spent, you can hire that out. So what you do with that free time is where exponential growth can come from. So that's what I've always done, is find out what can I carve out from my time, and I can outsource that to somebody else. Then what am I going to do with that time to exponentially grow my agency? And that's how I was able to scale. Is the more I removed myself, the more we were able to scale. And the more time I had to be a visionary versus somebody that was working in the business. So anybody that's struggling, start with a basic. Start with something simple, and then start creating a list of activities, and then create the process around it. Write it. You can use voice recording, AI, whatever it is. Create the process, and then delegate it. Find somebody. If it's 4 hours a day, 2 hours a day, whatever it might be, outsource it, and you're going to realize that you just gained back this incredible amount of time. And then you are able to grow your business. If you use it wisely, you're able to grow your business from that time, and then it'll perpetuate itself, and you will eventually outsource everything, or you will delegate everything, and then you're managing the business instead of working in the business.
Yeah, we recently went through that with, it was shortly after you and I last spoke. We posted a job for a remote service position. And in a span of 3 weeks, we had 6,000 people apply. And we sponsor the job post only $100 for the entire month. So we had a lot of people apply, and we had a really rigid filtering process where they had to do assessments, a video interview, and only people who checked a lot of the boxes that we needed, we ended up doing a phone interview and then a final interview. And to help prepare for bringing those people on, because hiring remote service staff is a new thing for us, we asked the current team that we have to record videos on the normal tasks that they do. And we just created a spreadsheet with 2 columns. Column A is the name of the task, how to find an alert in the system. An alert is any message from corporate that says so-and-so missed their payments, or so-and-so needs to make their sign of documents. So the title of the video goes in one column, and on the next column, we have a short Loom video that describes how to find the alert. And then we did that for all the key things that our service team does, and then we cleaned it up, organized it by section. Before we knew it, we had several hours of pre-recorded content that we can just give to somebody that we hire remotely, and they watch these videos instead of having someone from our team sit through a call and screen share, explain everything multiple times. Once you have something recorded, it becomes a library of videos that can live on for a really long time. And anytime this remote person has a question, how do I address this issue? Whatever they ask us, we don't just reply back in written format. We don't just jump on a call and screen share with them. We record a video addressing that particular question. And that becomes the next video in our video library. So now that we've had this remote team working for us, the training is really good. And the next person we bring on, they're going to be trained up even better. But one thing funny story happened recently to us. One of the people that I brought on, she was so impressive. Loved everything about her. And I was already thinking, she's like 2 days into her training, I already think about giving her a raise, thinking about more responsibilities. Turns out she lied about her location of where she's at. So she said she's in the States. Turns out she was out of the country. And we could work with people outside the country. There's more hoops that we have to jump through, but we're happy to do that for the right person.
Yeah.
But you cannot lie about things like that because we shipped all the workstation equipment to the address that she said she lives at.
Oh,
And
that's
instead of
funny.
just brushing it off and saying, okay, well, let us ship the stuff over to your real address, we parted ways with her because one thing I always say in the first or in the final interview is that your first day that you lie on the job is your last day here. And that was true for her as well. And it was just a lesson for me that do your due diligence with these remote people when you
Oh
bring
yeah.
them on because you just never know. Any tips that you have besides using Just Work on hiring remote staff and training them?
So I'm actually gonna piggyback on what you just itemized, which is that Excel spreadsheet and links to the Loom video and so forth. I would go a step further on that with accountability. So, what does accountability look like when you are training a remote person? Once they do watch the videos and so forth, there needs to be a live interview with a set questions around those videos to make sure they comprehend and understand. Um, if they don't comprehend and understand, then you actually redirect them back to the videos and then come back and we give them a second set of questions. And if they can't comprehend and understand, it's a good indicator. Hey man, that may not be retention, may not be there. Something might be a red flag. Hiring remote is extremely difficult because you don't know what situations that they have at home. You don't know what distractions they have. All you have is an interview and just something that filters out the chaos of their life, right? Which is this. And they're going to always put that best foot forward. So finding out what they retain, finding out how they retain, and how serious they are about the job does come with accountability. And we do weave accountability into every aspect of our agency. And then once they do get on board and they can show that they can retain and they can implement and regurgitate, then we hold them accountable to activity in the right areas. And that has been the best way that our agency has been able to support our growth and our retention and service. We pull the calls. Do you guys pull calls, listen to them quite a bit?
Yeah, for the service team, specifically what we pull up is by category. So one week could be on renewals. So we'll pull some call recordings on that. Another week could be on cancellations where a client calling in
Mm-hmm.
and wanting to cancel. So we have different themes that we go off of, and we'll pull call recordings and listen to them and see what went well, what could have gone better.
Yeah. And that's the worst. Honestly, I hate pulling calls more than anything, but it's the most necessary thing. We just let go of a sales agent that we had been pulling calls, but we just got lazy for 2 weeks. We weren't pulling calls. We were off in other areas on marketing, and we came back and we didn't understand why she wasn't closing.
Mhm.
Well, she had gotten to a point where her talk path she had normalized a talk path that wasn't even going to come where close to connecting, and we missed it. We missed it. And it was after that we let her go. And then we pulled a few calls and said, oh my gosh, if we had just stayed in this, we probably could have corrected, but it was too late. So I believe pulling those calls, don't ever try to grow your agency or bring anybody that's remote on without being dedicated and diligent to pulling calls. Um, that can be the biggest factor that could change the trajectory of any size service or sales.
Yeah, let's talk about that on the sales side. Let's pivot to that side of the business. Your team is putting up some impressive numbers considering the circumstances in your states.
Mhm.
You guys are not the most competitive.
No.
To say that you guys are, halfway competitive would be an overstatement. You
Jeez,
guys
no.
are not in the best position right now, and you guys are still putting up great numbers. Tell me what your expectations are for each producer, both on the activity side and also from a result standpoint.
Yeah. So first expectation is activity. Activity number one. And activity is the driving factor of anybody's success. You got to put one foot in front of the other. I don't care how good the marketing is, how good the agency culture is. But if you're not going to put one foot in front of the other, then it's not going to work out. So each each agency has a different marketing plan, and each agency should create the metrics or the KPIs around their marketing plan. So if you have one agency that is making 150, 200 outbound dials on data leads, age leads, whatever it might be, it may not be the same KPIs for your agency. You may be driving in inbound, high
Mhm.
intent prospects, right? So you're looking for different metrics that actually produce results based on that marketing. So a marketing plan like mine and yours, I think, I do mailers, obviously. So I'm driving in warm and, warm leads. And then I also purchase substantial amount of data leads. And then we have an in-house telemarketing team. So I'm peppering my team with transfers from generated in-house. And then we're having driving inbound. And then we actually have a great organic search because of all of the reviews that we have. So we're getting that, generating that as well. And then we also have one or two mortgage brokers that are bringing in, 6, 10 opportunities a month. All of that in that mixture require outbound, right? And they require answering the inbound. And then they require a certain amount of talk time to convert. Okay. And most of our prospects have already been vetted. So I don't need as much outbound as one would think. So my team, based on the amount of opportunities that are coming at them, are making around 40 to 50 outbound a day on days where they're following up with their pipeline.
Mhm.
When the marketing is bad, when I'm not driving in transfers, mailers haven't landed, or people just aren't responding to mailers that month, then they know that they need to create more outbound to drive quotes. So if we have opportunity and metrics that are driving quotes, then we have to have one key metric, which is talk time, that converts a quote to a sale. So quotes are what we're always managing to. How many quotes does it take to generate that sale based on your close rate?
Okay.
And if we are generating enough quotes and we have the right talk time associated with it, then we know that that is going to generate a sale. So what we need when we're driving inbound and there's some required outbound, we really need around 40 to 50 outbound dials a day for our agency. And we need about 25 minutes of talk time per quoted household on average in order to generate a 20% close rate. That's what we need.
Mhm.
That's what we have to have. And backing into all that, then I can take my marketing and say, if this is all happening, if all of my sales agents are doing these things, I can invest this much amount of money and create this many opportunities or at bats, and I'm going to generate an ROI that's cash flowing and allowing me to go to the next month and keep repeating and repeating and scale. So that's kind of how we manage everything. Every agency has a little bit different dynamic and a different marketing plan. So one agency's metrics doesn't always fit for, another agency's. So it all depends on what they are, driving are striving for. So what about you guys?
Yeah, it's pretty similar on our side. You track quotes, and seems like the conversion target is 20%. You talk to 5 people, you close one. On our end, we track new conversations. So time on the phone with somebody for 10 minutes,
Hmm.
new prospect. If you do that, that's what we count a new conversation. If it's someone that we quoted in less than 10 minutes, but we weren't able to close them because they're ineligible due to too many claims, we don't count that as anything. So we don't count quotes, we count new conversations. But those two are very similar. They're not the same, but new conversations and quotes are similar. And the close rate seems like pretty aligned with you guys going for 20% on quoted. We're going 25% on 10-minute conversations, which is one step further in the conversation.
That's a pretty sweet. That's actually that's that's very smart because a lot of the meat is in a 10 minute plus. So I do like that. Um, you know, I don't know if you guys track your one call closes, but you can have straight solid talk time and you can have good quote volume, but you can also have a lot of sales agents that talk their way off the phone because they're
Mhm.
non-confrontational and they like to sell the way they're sold, and that's not how we do it. So in our agency, we strive for one call closes, meaning if you spoke to that prospect that same day and we close that same day, we call it a one call close because there's always factors outside of our control, driver's license and so forth. So we have around this month is like 66, 67% close rate, which is much higher. Our average one call close rate is around 55 to 58%. But we're up this month in the one call close rate around 67%. I'd love to get to 70%. That would mean 70% of all sales came from speaking to that client, quoting to that on that client, and then closing them, typically in the same conversation. That takes a tremendous amount of coaching, talent, and intentionality. And so I think managing that KPI is really important to understand if your agents are going for it every time as well. Do you guys manage that, or how do you look at that in order to determine?
Yeah, we don't set an expectation around the number of one call closes, and, and I don't track that too closely, but uh, it is something I look at with how many sales we made, and we do have one place where we track. We call them same day closes if it's not
Oh
a
yeah.
true one call close, but
Hmm.
it's the same difference. And I would say our average with our 20 sales agents is closer to like 40%,
Hmm.
plus or minus 10% for one call closes, same day closes, which means that a lot of our business comes from follow up. And if we
Right.
don't close somebody today, then the expectation is that if the person is interested in what we have to offer, we got to call, text, and email them for 5 days. As long as we do that, then we know that there's going to be business that comes from that. And I think when I look at some of the biggest accounts that we have, some of our best clients that we have, they're not the ones who move forward quickest.
Hmm.
And a lot of our business that we close is homeowners insurance. And a lot of times they have to provide proof that they fixed something 3 years ago, and they need to call the contractor, get the paid invoice, and it has to be the right invoice, has to say all the right things. So that causes some delay. Had it have not been for that, then our one call close rate would probably be closer to, I'd say, 60%, but not too much higher, which still means a lot of our business comes from follow-ups. And um, as much as we
Good.
love one call closes, we cannot ignore following up with people that we've quoted before.
Yeah. Well, you're obviously tracking the right metric. Otherwise, you couldn't write $1 million plus in premium in a month. So you're managing. Everybody has a different way of managing to the agency culture and the expectations. You know where I find the most individuals that are struggling to grow is that they typically manage from feelings.
Mhm.
And when you're a feelings based manager or a relational type manager, and but you don't have any processes at all to fall back on. And a process starts at a job offer. Actually, it starts at the interview, setting the expectations and then reinforcing it with a job offer. And not only do you reinforce it with a job offer, but you got a really good agency handbook that then reinforces everything and what the
Yeah.
expectations are, what's not allowed, what is allowed. Uh, and I think agency owners that literally go through a quick interview, they like somebody, they connect with somebody, and then they bring them on, and there's no organization, there's no process, there's no accountability. It's just I like you, you like me. Let's do some business, and you have a license, and let's go. There's so much that I manage with other agencies when I'm coaching and I'm helping and I'm that you see that if they just documented like you're doing and they just held them accountable, and if they just started off in the right way, that the feelings would eventually go to facts. And then when you have a process and accountability, the facts are this. This is our process. You're not following it. Here are the facts, right? And I'm just delivering the message. Um, I see so many agency owners just going around and around based on feelings, and so much turnover that $1 million in written premium seems like they would think that's impossible. But
Mhm.
all it is just submitting to the fact that you have to get out of your own way, and you have to lay down a process and then expectations and then accountability. And that means the KPIs, discovering what KPIs work for you, which ones don't, which marketing strategy works for your culture, your agency culture, and which ones don't. And then as you step back, bringing in better talent than you to cultivate and grow, that talent pool in your agency, man, that is how all of these successful agency owners that I operate with, that I connect with, such as yourself, I don't see anybody, unless you have, kind of growing, scaling, and finding tremendous success by accident. They all have a story and they all have a reason. Like just you and I are conversing, I'm understanding your reason for your success right now. They all have processes in place that they believe in, and accountability. And they,
Yeah, the
you know what?
success
Yeah, success is what?
is not accidental. Like
Oh,
there's a method to the madness with how you structure everything, whether it's marketing, sales expectations, service expectations. It's not just, hey, let's do our best every day. There's clarity around what does winning look like, and everybody understands what that standard of winning looks like.
right. And I get it. And holding people accountable, we've gotten to a point now where I can honestly say if 40 items for us would be items, some agencies would call it policies. But if 40 items or policies aren't written in a month with our process and our marketing and our expectations and what we manage to, it's not a good fit. It's just not a good fit. And I'm in an extremely difficult market. Yet we still have a standard with expectations. Why? Because we have a process that works and one that I believe in. And it's not a feeling based, it's all based on facts. If you deal with our marketing in this way, you make this amount of outbound calls, you follow a decent talk path, and you work to overcome objections and close on the call at any time you can, barring outside factors, right? And you follow up like you do, we're weak in follow up. We actually are weaker in follow up, and which is why we have such a high one call close. Well, I looked at our average time from quote to close, and it's 3 days. It's 3 days. I bet yours is like more like 10 days, and you
So I
follow
didn't want to say
follow up.
this.
How,
I didn't
what
want
is
to say this,
what is it?
but well, no, you said exactly what feedback I would give to a producer if they came in and they said, "I'm killing it with my one call close rates." I would celebrate that with them because they're probably doing a lot of the right things in their sales conversation to get to the sale. But for vast majority of people, if their same day close rates or their one call close rate is really high, and by really high, I mean of over 60, 70%, I would question their follow-up game. I'd want to know on the people that you didn't close, but you had a 10-minute conversation with them, how many of those people did you call, text, and email for at least 5 days? And what exactly do those follow-ups look like? And I'm willing to bet that the odds are that people who have extremely high close rates probably don't have really good follow-up game. So that
If you
balance
yeah,
is
my
hard to
data from my agency validates exactly what your feelings are. So it's true in my agency that I can go to my LSPs, we call licensed sales professionals. I can go to them, and when they're having a tough time, and their one call closes down to like 25%, right? And they're having a horrible month, indication of no follow-up. So
Mhm.
when you do send a ton of higher kind of intent leads and vetted prospects to your agency, they get kind of fat on the hog. You know what I mean? They get a little lazy and complacent. They're great one call closers, but they're kind of farming, right? And taking orders. And then when they have to become hunters, it's very hard for them to kind of like just take that strategy and say, all right, now I've got to hunt. It's very hard to change, right? So I do struggle with that in my agency with that type of marketing plan that I have in place. It really is hard because you change people that could be hunters that are great hunters, and then they become farmers. And then when you say,
Yeah.
guys, my marketing plan is not working this month, you've got to go back to hunting. It's hard. It's very, very hard. And I will tell you this, there's been months where marketing failed and we failed as an agency, and that shouldn't happen. That shouldn't happen. When you can blame it on the marketing and you blame it on the marketing and the team couldn't rise above that and find opportunity outside of your marketing plan, then yeah, that's where you can absolutely fail. And we fell victim to that November and December last year, where the marketing plan failed and no one did anything about it.
Mm.
And that was a learning lesson. And I changed the team. I switched the team after that because I said, you know what? I cultivated this. I did this, but I also have to undo it. So it was tough.
When you say marketing plan failed, what does that mean to you? What do you mean by that?
So in my marketing plan, it's heavily kind of relying upon data leads. And
Mm.
data leads is a hard game. And when I'm receiving extremely low intent prospects and I can't diversify my way out of that, then our pipeline gets filled with extremely low intent junk, right? And sometimes when that happens, it takes a week and a half to 2 weeks to churn that pipeline and get out of it. Before you know it, the month's over. The month's over. So it's extremely hard sometimes, when you got to pivot, you got to remember that pipeline is full with junk, right? And so every time they're following up, it's a low intent prospect, just window shopping. And then when you finally get higher intent prospects available or for web leads or mailers, and you finally churn it, then that month could already be over. And I experienced it back to back in November, December, because what happened was the agency culture, a lot of times when you have bad marketing and you lose momentum, a lot of people won't create their own momentum. They're relying upon the agency to create that momentum and they get lazy. And that's what I did. I created a lazy team and then that was my fault. And then I had to change that. And now we have a really solid team that has good synergy. They know how to create momentum and they know how to work with my marketing plan. And now we're riding, in the high 400s, 500 items a month.
What you said there makes me think about a few months ago, we were quoting a higher percentage of the leads that we bought than what we're quoting right now. And our close rate is still very similar. In fact, it's a little bit higher now than it was before because our team is better trained. It's not by much. We went from closing 33% to now closer to like 35%.
Wow.
So the of the 10-minute conversations. But as you're saying this, I'm thinking something that I need to talk to my team about urgently is just reminding them that when they have a lead on the phone, we should not have the expectation that they want to talk to us and that they're going to give us all the time. Because there are months where every person who answers the phone, they're high intent, they want to talk to us, they're actively looking to switch. And then we get into weeks or it could be months where almost everybody that we talk to is low intent. And
Yeah.
we have to change the way that we communicate with our prospects. There has to be the sales process doesn't have to change, but the way that we structure our calls, we have to be quicker with how we speak. We don't have any moments for dead air. We have to understand that this person may have not even filled out a form, but somehow we got their information and they're talking to us. Let's capitalize on this moment right now. The way we talk to that person is very different than the guy who has his deck pages right in front of him. He's ready to switch in the next 30 days. And that person will give you all the time in the world. First person would not. So we have to change the way that we talk to our prospects and not just assume that everybody's high intent.
It's crazy. It's a crazy as much as and you coach this with agencies all across the country. I'm an Allstate agent and I know several Allstate agents that have come to visit you and learned a ton from you. And I would bet that your talk paths and some of your scripts that you have changed in the past year. They've may have come full circle. And it's crazy, but the mindset never changes. It's the growth mindset and being willing to adapt to the marketing plan that you have. And I'm telling you, different talk paths, right, for different mindsets. And we have learned in our agency that vetting that up front, I call it friction up front, having some friction up front to understand where their mindset is and where they are in the process really helps you understand how you need to approach the call. And I imagine that's what you do. And you're constantly adapting to that. And but it's having that mindset, and it doesn't come organically. You know how, being a coach player, a lot of times, you can't coach and play on the field at the same time.
Right.
Right. So learning on the field, learning during game time, and trying to figure out how to talk to a prospect is a recipe for failure. So that repetition and role playing and understanding the objections. And I do something for my agency called being the author. Being the author for your own success. And what we do is we talk about the objection that is coming to us, constantly shutting us down. And then we find out what our objective is and how do we work to that objective and what things do we need to say to trigger the right brain, right? Get them off their fat gathering, get that emotional side. But the some of the stuff that comes out is amazing when you start becoming the author of your own success. And but that comes with that growth mindset in the agency, the culture. I mean, you can be an amazing coach, right? You can coach other agencies and give them tons of talk paths, right? But if they don't have a growth mindset and they say, no, I'm going to let it come at me and I'm going to respond how I respond, they're going to go the path of least resistance. And the path of least resistance is to accept and meet the prospect where they are, right? Which is usually price. And the prospect is going to close you 100% of the time on price.
Yeah.
So I love, we have KPIs. I love one call closes. That helps me understand the mindset. I love the follow-up game. However we get there, that mindset and that growth mindset with the agency culture, no matter what the marketing plan is, as long as you're not a victim every day, like you and I could be victim of products. Matter of fact, you unavoidably were a victim of products decisions, where they pretty much shut you down and you found a way, right? But that growth mindset and creating a culture around that's the common denominator I've always seen as well from agency owners or business owners that are highly successful, is they adapt and they figure it out. And like I said, your scripts could be totally different from where you were a year ago, and you're constantly growing and developing into something that hits target more. But that growth mindset is the biggest factor, I think, as well, that agency owners have to have.
You're exactly right. And we have to let go of our firm beliefs that we have had for a really long time. If there is a data that supports that another way is a better way to grow. For example, when I first got into the industry, I was working old leads. And when I would call an old lead, one of the questions I had asked early in the conversation was, hey, Ryan, how much is XYZ Insurance charging you every month for your insurance? You'd give me a number, say $200 a month. And I would repeat that number, $200 a month. Really? Wow, that's interesting. Well, I have a quote started for you here. It's come back at a great rate. Before I share the price with you, I want to see if I can apply any additional discounts the system may have missed. It looks like your full address is this, your date of birth is that. So I would plant a seed of doubt early in the conversation, and they would think, well, he said really, $200 a month is very interesting. So he must have a better rate. And at the end of the call, if my rate was come back lower, I would ask for the sale. If it's come back higher, we'd still ask for the sale. But what I have found with my team members who are working new leads, not old recycled leads, I taught them the same question in the beginning of the call, ask them how much they're being charged. But the problem with that was when someone said they pay $200 a month and our price is coming back at $300 a month, you know what our producers didn't do? They didn't ask for the sale with confidence. They would kind of tiptoe. So Ryan, yeah, it's $300 a month, which is a really good price. And, it's because of this, and that coverage. What do you think about that? Oh, you want me to email it to you? Sure, I can email it to you. They were not as assertive with asking for the sale because our price was higher. And in their mind, they're thinking, well, why would he switch over for a higher
They're almost
price?
embarrassed. Yeah, they're almost embarrassed to ask.
So then I started looking at some of our top producers and I asked him, so how much was this guy paying per month? And he said, I don't know. I don't ask. I stopped asking because it psychs me out. I'm like, what do you mean it psychs you out? And he says, once I know how much somebody pays, if my price comes back to be higher,
I'm managing to that.
Yep, I managed to that. And he says, the moment I stopped asking, I started just going into every conversation. $5,000 a year for home insurance, that's a great rate. Here's how to get started. $300 a month for car insurance, that's a great rate. Here's how you can get started. So he started going into it certainly. And I thought, okay, here's 9 years of a reputation that I built around a certain part of a script around asking, how much are you being charged for your insurance? And that has to go away. And now we're no longer asking that question. So we had to adjust that in our written script and our video training. And now we let our agency owners who are with Insurance Sales Lab know that that's not a question you should ask. And here's why. And that's just one demonstration of many where as we learn what works better, we evolve. What we think is the best way to go is what we teach today. And in 6 months' time, a year's time, that could change. And this is why having these conversations with other top performing agents is so important because they could know something that you will learn on your own, but in who knows how much time, in 6 months, a year, why not take that shortcut and learn that information in an hour-long conversation that you listen to on YouTube versus spending thousands of dollars on marketing and wasting money on marketing that you could have closed. And the reason you didn't close is because you were lacking some new information that other agents knew. So I know that your superpower, Ryan, and what you help with as far as other agents that reach out to you is with their marketing. There's the mailers that you help with, but then also with understanding the numbers behind the marketing. So first on the mailers, we did mailers in our first 6 months, and I can't say that they didn't work because we had inbound calls, and our average inbound call was, I want to say about $80 per inbound call, which wasn't bad. But when you look at successful mailer campaign over a period of 6 months, because you can never make decisions based on 1,000 mailers that you send in 1 month. You have to give it a larger data pool of 5,000, 10,000 mailers, and you have to give it time. You have to give it at least 6 months for you to really see the true return there, because somebody might be holding on to a mailer for 3 months and then they'll call you later. How do you measure what an average campaign looks like in mailers? And then also what is considered to be really good, the North Star, where maybe only top 20% of agents are getting to?
So you have to go so much more granular, and agents aren't used to doing that, and they don't want to do that. And they just want to throw mailers out to where they feel like the response rate should be good. They only throw mailers out to a place where they feel like they can close the most, so their best performing zip codes. Mailers are about response. Mailers are about response. You just preface that with your $80 quote rate. It's about response. People way too much emphasize the close rate, and this is how most people select zip codes. Oh, where's my best closing zips? Okay, that's where I want to mail to. Well, don't you think that everybody else is actually mailing to that zip code if that's yours? Yes, everybody has the data. So what I do is I mail to a specific area and I mail everything. I mail everything. Um, and what I do is I take back that data every month and I analyze it. I realize how much mail went to the specific zip code, and then did that yield a quote? So what I have found, I'm taking this granular, I'll build it up. It takes a minimum 500 pieces of mail to go to a specific zip code before you can understand and have uh, data without question to either scale that zip code, keep the zip code, or fire the zip code. This is the truest thing ever. This is an 80-20 rule. Only 20% of the zip codes that you mail to make up 80% of what you quote. It's 20% make up 80%. So we're always trying to manage to that 20% and cut out the other 80% that only produce 20% of your quotes, because those are the most expensive ones. Those are the ones that cost $400 a call or $500 a call. So if you break it down by zip code, you're willing to mail in that zip code at least 500 pieces. That could take up to 6 months. Then analyze it from there. Then you know exactly which zip code is producing, which one isn't. So what I've found, I'm going to tell you this: higher income, white collar, higher income, those individuals have a guy. They all have a guy. And they get your mailer, they've already got a guy. They're going to call the guy. They trust the guy. They're very, very low impulse. There's no impulsivity there. But what I found in a higher income kind of blue collar type of environment, high trustability, they trust that. They're impulsive, a little bit more impulsive, and they're willing to call. Isn't that crazy? But that's the truth. So with that, I'm always trying to find those pockets, and I am all over the place. Man, I'm zip codes everywhere I'm mailing to, and you would never think that someone would respond to my mailer 45 miles away from my office, but that's my best producing zip code, 45 miles away from my office, because I did a blanket approach. I waited, I invested, I cut out all the junk, and then I'm only sending out mailers to zip codes that perform. So you would think I own the mail company. So you would think I'd send 30, 40, 50, 60, 80,000 mailers. I only send 15,000 mailers a month, because I know if I send mailers to another zip code, there's no response. Why? So I pinpointed and I've gone down, and yeah, we have a very low item acquisition cost with our mailers. It's not a ton, a massive part of our business, but it's a very steady stream of our business. So I promise you, approach mailers in a zip code specific kind of mentality. Don't mail to what closes well. Mail everywhere and find out what responds well. From there, you figure out your close rate, and make sure that you give your mailers and your inbound calls, and you have obviously a line, right? A lead line that they call into your best closers, and the ones that cultivate the best relationship and close. Those are the ones that get the mailers. So those are the ones that we work with, and it's worked out really, really well. So that's how I'd approach mailers if I were going to do it. And then I will tell you this: we see a 20% response rate when a female photo is on the mailer. And if you're going to be a male and you're going to do that, you make sure you incorporate your family or the entire agency in, because they have to like you, they have to trust you. And a sharp guy in a suit isn't always trusting that guy, maybe some red flags. But a family environment, a not so formal of a photo is awesome. And then a call to action in that you're giving them a great price, the most aggressive price possible that you could actually generate in a quote, and they're calling in, and then you're addressing the elephant in the room, right, with a great talk path, helping them understand that it could change, and they agree to that based on information that you're going to find out in the conversation, and then you work on that. So there's a combination of all of those things to create a successful mailer campaign.
So on that particular question, with a prospect calling in and saying, "Hey, I got this mailer and or a piece in the mail that says my home insurance is going to cost $800 for the year. What is your team trained to say in the very beginning? Do they acknowledge that number? Do they tell them that, yeah, that's the best case scenario, but let's see what your final price will be? What do you tell your team? What do you coach your team to say in the beginning of that call?
Well, yeah, it's obviously everything is with a thankful attitude that we address. Thank you so much for the opportunity to earn your business. Earn my business means I'm setting the tone. This is the expectations that I have. And then we tell them, hey, listen, we sent out that estimate to you based on certain assumptions that we had to make: roof age, claim history, insurance history. So we had to make some assumptions, which is why it's an estimate. From there, right, we sent out the mailer. And if everything comes back about the same, then we'll be very competitive and be able to earn your business. So it could be higher or lower. Does that sound fair? And once we get their buy-in and they accept that that could sound fair, then we don't have any issues at the close if it's different. So being honest, leading with the truth. Obviously, the mailer was competitive and kind of, they would say, bait and switch. But when you address that up front, call it addressing the elephant in the room, and you get their buy-in and they give you a verbal contract saying that they accept that, then you can move forward and their mindset's changed. And then they typically, that objection at the very end, if you're higher, then you can bring it back to, hey, remember we agreed that if things changed, and typically everything does. You always have something to fall back on. And you're able to overcome that objection and close.
Pivoting to data leads, what would you consider to be a good sweet spot for client acquisition cost, your CAC? And I know that, sometimes we might have a lead vendor that sends us leads and we're closing them at under $100 for cost per acquisition, but we can't get more leads from them. So we have to get a second lead vendor, a third lead vendor. And that's kind of where I'm at right now, where we work with 6 different lead vendors just because no one lead vendor can give us the volume that we need because of the size of our team. With the coaching that you provide to agency owners, what do you recommend being a sweet spot for specifically data leads for CAC?
Yeah, so it all depends on product and what they're doing in your state.
Say home is what we're going after.
So if I am buying a home lead, the way it all should convert, you have an acquisition cost and what you're willing to spend, right? So let's say you're writing $1,000 for a home, which is about right. Let's say $1,000 just for one home policy. If you're making 10% in revenue from that at new business, which is on the low side, but if you're making 10%, you're going to generate $100 next month that's going to get paid out to you by product. So would that item acquisition cost favorably be at $100 for me? For me, the way I cash flow and the way I look at things, yes, absolutely. If you're an agency that has a 95% retention rate, then there's only a 5% chance of that $1,000 policy at renewal not renewing. What happens then? Another 10%, right? And then if you know that it should retain, and your 5-year policy is retaining at the same, there's a 5% chance. And obviously it whittles its way down, but you've gotten the return on your investment at second renewal. It's positive cash flow then, right? So I think you should look at it that way. Absolutely look at it that way. Now, if I'm on some enhanced kind of commission by product, so they have this huge enhancement, they sign up with us, sell our product, and they're going to give you 25%, then $250 of $1,000 policy, right, is now my new acquisition. They say, okay, well, then what happens to the sales commission? What happens to the salesperson? Well, all the years and days that time I've invested in building my book and all the renewals, that is covering my fixed overhead, those fixed costs, right? That's what it is. And then I want my new business, for me, I want my new business revenue that I'm bringing in from product to cover my marketing costs. And if I do well enough and I can lower that than what I'm actually getting paid. So if I can get it at $79 an item, that means I'm making additional $21, right, per item. If I do that, then that can help me cover that sales agent and cost and actually give me more money to hire another sales agent. So I think the item acquisition cost should be a break even or better if you can do it better, but a break even for whatever the revenue, whatever that new business revenue that's generated in that next month's commission, that is where my break even is. And that's where I like to hit. Now listen, I have a new business that's closing from some mailers, some zip codes that I'm okay with at $250 to $300 an item. I'm okay
And you're
with that.
looking at items, not households, right?
Yeah, item. I'm okay with that. Easy. But if I am $100 an item and it costs me $100 an item, right? Then you can put that into households and understand. So let's say the average household has 2.5 items in it, right?
Mhm.
So the average household is going to take auto and so forth. And if your average item is $1,000, then you're $2,500 in new business, right? And that premium. If you're getting paid 10%, that's $250. So if you want to do it in a household, then I'm willing to actually pay $250 for a household. If it's 2.5 items, $2,500 in premium at 10%, then I'm willing to pay for that. That's me. I've been cash flow positive most of my journey because of that mindset and how I work to that.
And is that excluding payroll, or is payroll part of that break-even calculation that you
Now,
have?
payroll is a part of my renewals, and that's what I look for. So if I'm a brand new agency owner and I know I'm about to scale and I'm going to add on 5 salespeople, I'm going to add on a service agent, and I'm going to get this thing going, and I'm going to put 30 or 40,000 in marketing, and I'm going to make 15% on my new business. I think I'm going to make a plan to write $100,000 in premium with that. I know I'm going to be out $100,000 by the time I get that first, second check, right? And then I'm going to continue to pay myself back because I'm going to be getting $15,000, $15,000, 15,000. And then all of a sudden, 6-month auto renew hits, boom, those hit. Then your 1 year home hits. And before you know it, after about a year to a year and a half or two, if you do it right, you should pay that $100,000 back and you should be able to take a decent draw as long as you're keeping your items, your item acquisition costs, and you're matching about what you're spending with your revenue. And there's ways to put that on paper, math it out, and show you guys very easily. But that's about the math that actually worked with me when I first started to cash flow and get me to positive cash flow by like month 15, 16, 17, something like that.
So, Ryan, if I'm talking to an agency owner who wants to take what we're discussing and actually put some real numbers behind that, here's what I would tell them, and tell me if I'm missing the boat anywhere here. If your average premium per household is 2,500, I like tracking based on household, not items, because we look at how much premium we wrote, how many households we got. We divide premium by household. We get our average premium per household. Let's suppose it's 2,500. This includes auto, home together. On a standard commission rate with most carriers, we're looking at about 10% commission rates. But with most, especially captive carriers or exclusive carriers, you have the ability to double your commissions or get a bonus where you won't be making just 10%, you'll be making 20%. So if I take 2,500 times 0.2, 20%, that means I'm making $500 on that client. And what you're saying is that, okay, a client came in, we made $500. Now, the way I look at this, I would do my best to have some of it go towards marketing, some of it go to payroll. And tell me if you agree or disagree with this. But if I'm buying a lead for, let's suppose, $10 per lead on average, and our contact rate is 20%, or not contact, but quote rates. 1 out of 5 people that we're able to get on the phone, 1 out of 5 leads that we buy, we end up quoting. Only 1 out of 5, which means that 80% of the leads that we buy, we never end up getting on the phone and quoting. And that's something that we have to be okay with. And that 20% that we do end up getting on the phone ends up being 20%. So $10 per lead times
Costing you $100 in a household then, I believe.
Well, if we're doing $10 lead times 5, that'd be $50 per quote, right?
Okay, $50 per quote. I'm sorry.
Per
Yeah.
quote. Yep, $50 per quote. And then our close rates should be at least 20%, one
So
out of five.
divide that by 0.2.
Now we're looking at $250 acquisition costs
Okay.
from purely marketing
It's
standpoint.
$100, it's $100 an item. Sorry.
Yep,
So we're
$100
at
an item,
$100 an item.
250. Yep, 250
Mhm.
for the household. So now we made 500, 250 went into marketing. We have 250 that goes into commissions. So even if you have an aggressive compensation plan where you pay 10% off of the total premium, you're looking at $2,500 in premium. 10% of that is $250 in commissions. So you pay the producer 250, you pay your lead vendor 250, that's your $500.
That
The
could
one thing
be.
that's not, yeah, it could be. And the one thing that we're not factoring in here is your base salary for the producer or any other overhead. And this is where you got to be
You're
really
out.
creative, yep, with your compensation plan where maybe you don't pay 10% right off the bat. You pay less because you may, like in our agency, we start them at 7%.
Mhm.
And they have to sell more in premium and do other things to earn higher commission tiers. But if your premium per household is 2,500, 7% of that would be 175.
Mhm.
175, that means we still have how much left over?
Yeah. Well, like
75
25.
bucks.
Yeah, $75. Yeah. So you
75
have
bucks
that.
left over.
And then did you know 60% of your premium from that is actually going to renew in 6 months
Yeah.
because it's an auto. 60% of all of your written premium, to 60 to 65 of all your written premium is auto. The other 40 to 35 to 40% is home. And that renews in a year. So you got to look at that, what that renewal then looks like in 6 months. So all of a sudden, let's say you wrote $50,000 in auto premium that month and you're getting 10% of that in 6 months. 6 months from now, you're getting another $5,000 commission from product. And then that's just compounding. So in this game, this is about a subscription-based business. How many subscribers can I get to my business that are paying me every 6 and 12 months?
Yeah.
Right. And then that business organically grows. And the average rate increase from product so far, what has it been? I don't even know. I would venture to say, I know with our product, we're up probably 140% since I started, maybe 200%. So your book is organically growing and feeding you more income while you're blitzing it out, trying to build that base. So I will tell you this. This is what I tell everybody. If you can build your business in 3 years to a $5 million book in 3 years, holy cow. The amount of cash flow opportunity and take home pay, it should be retained in the business as much as you can. That at that level, you can scale like crazy. So all the money you spent to grow to 5 million, if you do it right, then you can start scaling. You should have the processes in place. You should have a proven method. You should have proven accountability. And at that point, when I have 5 million in revenue, if you do it right, you should have fully paid off that $100,000 all in that you had. You should fully pay that off and you should be debt free. And then you should be able to scale like crazy. That is where I bring in and I start stacking more management and laying my processes out and holding them accountable to it and keep scaling, 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 scaling. So that's the typical point that I have seen when somebody hits that 5 mil and within 3 years, a lot of people do better. But if they hit that, then you see this trajectory, or you see some people that say, I'm making good money. And then they're just stagnant, right?
Yeah.
Because then they start putting their money in their lifestyle and not in the business and they don't see the opportunity. But that's a great business plan to put together is how do I get to 5 million in 3 years? And if you can do that, I promise you the profitability, the scalability, you have to get to 5 million in 3 years. You have to have had done it through process. You have to have had done it through accountability. You have to have had done it through others helping you by you stepping out of the business more. All those things had to happen to get there. So if you can do that, congrats, you know?
Yeah, that's like 138,000 in premium. If it's just the same amount every single month and you don't lose a single client, it's 138,000 in premium for 5 years. But if you factor in
Oh,
cancellations, yeah, about
yeah. In fact,
150.
but your book is going to outgrow cancellations and all that by
That's true.
10% in rate increases every
Yeah,
year. Easy,
yeah.
easy.
So Ryan, say we have 2 minutes. We're in an elevator. I see you and I say, Ryan, you're the guy that does these YouTube videos and you help agents with their marketing. I have 2 minutes before I have to jump into my meeting, but give me a 2 minute lesson on marketing and things that I might be missing. I'm already spending, say, $5,000 to $10,000 a month on marketing. I have 5 team members on my team. What is something that you would tell me that I should pay really close attention to allow me to be profitable and also get to a point where my average premium per producer goes up and my cost per acquisition goes down? What would you say?
I would say step into the shoes of the $10,000 an hour that you'll pay yourself by getting into the numbers. You are worth 10,000. If you're spending $10,000 a month, you are certainly worth $10,000 an hour every month to yourself, getting into the weeds, into the number. This is what I say focus on. First of all, look at the KPIs around every single lead source that you have. Everything. What is that? That is obviously on web leads called a contact rate, contact to quote rate, quote to close rate. You need to live by that every sales producer. There's a lot of times it's a sales producer that brings down a bad lead source. They're not always the right fit for that marketing strategy. The second thing I say, always focus on where you're closing business and go all in there. Okay. And the third thing I always tell people, right? Don't ever put all your eggs in one basket. Always diversify within create your marketing strategy to fit your agency culture and diversify, because when one thing is failing, typically the other one you can focus on and pick that up. Get yourself a good mix of organic. Organic should be search. How do you get found? Organic can be how do you ask for referrals? Organic can be how do you cross sell your book and win backs and so forth. Make sure that becomes a very good staple. And then everything else you're paying is called pay per lead. Everything else you're paying above and beyond what that organic can actually get you to, right? It can only get you so far. Then everything else you pay and invest in and track all of that and what you're spending, what your return is. If you don't do that, guys, all you do at that point is buy data and you pay for things based on emotions. So you allow that one sales agent that came in to celebrate, I just bought this lead. We just bought this lead from this person and I called it and I closed it. And you're like, double down, triple down, quadruple down. And then you're $10,000 in and you've written zero. It was just that one time. Take emotions out, follow the facts. They don't lie. And I promise you, you'll be able to scale profitably.
I'll give one more tip and to add that on. Give it more than 1 month of testing to
Mm-hmm.
see the real return that you're going to get off of a marketing source. Because we've had this where we activated a marketing source, and what you said, we get initial success to be really good, where we close a lot of new business. But then we go on this dry spell for a few weeks where there's no new households. But when you look at it from a 1 to 2 month standpoint, it's right in line with other lead vendors. Or the opposite could be true, where we start off and there's nothing. But as we share feedback with the lead vendor, we say, here's the leads that we got that were bad numbers, and they said that they never requested a quote. We share that information with the lead vendor, and whether they do adjustments or not, we look at the data over a 2 month period. We see that
Mm-hmm.
things level out, and that
You're
often
fine.
happens with our business as well. So how do agents reach out to you and get help with their marketing? What's your website? How do people get a hold of you?
Well, what we do very well is, and what you just said is, I buy data, but I buy everything. And I expose all the data to the buyer, meaning they know where the lead came from. They know through, dispositions, they send that data back to me. I do the data analytics and I make adjustments saying, oh, we can't buy that data for them anymore. They could never get them on the phone, or they didn't qualify. That data all has facts behind it, and we make choices around it. That's called easy marketing. That's the name of the company that I work on. So it's easymarketingusa.com. That is a great place to start. And we source incredible data there. We use a ton of data analytics. And then I also have a telemarketing company through Easy Marketing. So we put them, really love Ricochet. It's been pretty awesome. So we drop a lot of our telemarketers in Ricochet. We get the data feedback, and then we do the analytics for you, and we make adjustments on the leads. That's been awesome. Mail marketing is really solid across the country for us. We do an incredible job for our agents, and we help them do the data analytics. We get your quote information, we compare it to how much we've spent in a zip, and we give you the feedback. So we help you fire bad zips, and we help you scale good zips. So that is easy. That's Echo Zulu, easy, not EASY, but Echo Zulu, easymailmarketing.com, easymailmarketing.com. And then with data analytics, it's really cool. So when people need to track their quotes, you're tired of tracking all your stuff on Excel spreadsheet. Yeah, we put it on steroids for you at thehumble100.net. That's THE humble, HUMBLE 100.net. And that's a pretty bad to the bone site if you want to level yourself up from your Excel spreadsheet to a little something that's going to give you better data feedback.
Which one excites you most of all the companies that you have when you work with agency owners? The Humble 100, Easy Marketing, Easy Mail. Which one excites you most?
The Humble 100 data.
Yeah, why is
Data
that?
is where it's at. Because those that are struggling or that are scaling but not profitably are lacking the data. It's all in numbers, guys. If you just stood back and looked at the numbers, you'll find the majority of your solutions.
I'm on the website. This can't be right. This is only $79 a month.
Only $79 a month for the whole thing. Yeah. We keep it pretty cost effective.
$79 a month, and that includes
All users.
yeah, advanced insights and guidance on dashboard, marketing performance, marketing goals.
Commissions. Yeah. Does it all. And then every Thursday at 12:30, I open up my agency and I show everybody what's going on in my agency, how I'm making decisions, how I'm using the data to pivot, and what concerns me. And then I do, because I told you in my agency, we love being the author, basically. And I teach them how to be the author. They can bring their salespeople on. I say, hey, this is how we're the author. Give me what your problem is, and let's just write it. I never send it out to them. They want to write it down. They want to record it. Great. But I also teach them how to be the author. I don't do your thing. I just kind of share some of our insight, and that's it.
Well, that's amazing. Thank you for all your wisdom. Thank you for your time. Even though you're on vacation with your family, you still took the time to spend time with us today. I appreciate it. We'll put all of your contact information below this video and also on the screen here. Thanks again.
Thanks, brother.